So I think it's about that time. Yep, welcome to second half, day one, DevCon, everybody. Christy Gassaldo, I'm your room host today. Most of you I saw this morning checking in or running around here. I work for Alfresco, I'm the community manager. So you are here for the APS Stencil development. If that's not the case, the wrong room, check the schedule. And this is, I'm gonna do this as well as I can. I said this morning, just like we should not let the Americans check people in. So we just ruin all names. So this is Lukas Ladenberger. Not bad. Not bad. I'm from the South, so it's brutal. So he works for IT Novum. I don't know if they're one of our sponsors today, so be sure to check out their booth upstairs. He's been working on Alfresco for at least a year and a half, pretty much exclusively. Year and a half. Software developer. But that's not his only skill set, so he's going to do a little more of an introduction, and I'll hand it over to you now.
Okay. So hello everybody. So first of all, I think we need to start the email class because the picture is gone. Yeah. Okay. Oh, great. Okay, so hello everybody again. Thanks for introducing me, Christian. So, okay. So let's try it again. Okay, back. So I'm going to talk today about Alfresco process services, and especially I will talk about developing custom form stencils. So before we start with actual talk, let me just give you a short question. So hands up, who has already worked with Alfresco process services and especially created custom form stencil using the APS editor? Hands up. Okay, so some people here. Okay. Why I'm asking is because I'm currently working on a project in Germany for a credit company where I need to create different and a lot of custom stencils to meet the requirements from our customer. Yes, and the motivation to make a proposal for this conference is really coming from my work in this company for the customer. So, and I'm really excited if you share my problems which I want to present to you and the experience which I made during my work for this customer. Okay, some words about me. I'm a software engineer at a company called Novum. And at Novum, I'm working with techniques like Alfresco content services, Alfresco process services, and beside these two techniques, I'm also interested in all our topics around Java EE, Java, Spring, but also front-end technologies like AngularJS and Angular 2.5. And below you see some information about our company, only a short information. We are currently hiring, so when you're interested in the job, just talk to me or one of my colleagues here in the front. It'd be nice to get in touch with you. Okay, so let's start with the talk. So this talk is all about user tasks and forms. So in my opinion, in BPMN, a user task is one of the most important elements. Why? Because a user task allows you to involve the human operator into the process, so that the human operator can input some data to the process. And a user task typically provides a form for this purpose, where a form is composed of different form fields like input fields, checkboxes, and all other interactive widgets which may provide some data into the process. And APS comes with a lot of predefined form fields for different purposes. However, sometimes you have a business requirement where none of these predefined form fields meet your requirements. So for this, APS provides a feature where you can create and develop custom form stencils. using a so-called stencil editor, which is integrated into the APS platform. And the integrated stencil editor allows you, for instance, define the design, the look and feel of the form field, and also the logic, the controller part for your form fields. And this feature is really cool. So you have a lot of benefits, like, yeah, of course, you don't need an additional tool because you can directly develop your stencil, the form field directly in the integrated editor. And versioning is supported out of the box. This means that whenever you change your design or the controller part of your form field, the old process instances which rely on the old code are still working. So this old code is still available in there. So all old process instances are still working. So very nice feature. And yeah, very powerful. So let's have a look at a normal stencil development approach using the APS editor. So consider the following situation. You're a software engineer and you need to develop a custom form field to meet some business requirement. Okay? So what you have to do is, first of all, you go into the stencil editor in APS, you create the design and the logic of your form field until you reach a state where you say, okay, this should be it, this should be fine, so let's have a look at the result. So in order to do that, of course, you need first create an app definition, you need to create a process definition, user task, you need to add this form field to the user task, and you need to publish the app definition as the next step. After this, you need to start a new process to start and enter the user task, to input some initial data maybe. And after this, here's the first time where you can see really the result of your form field, where you can inspect your form field. Okay, really the first time where you can see the result. And consider you're looking at a user task, and what you see is, yeah, nothing. Okay, something is, yeah, some problem. You have some problem with your form fields. Looking into the developer console, you see maybe, for instance, a lot of JavaScript bugs. Okay, damn. Okay, we need to go back to our stencil editor and need to fix the bug. Okay, so we fix the bug. After fixing the bug, we need to republish the app definition. We need to start a new process. We need to reconstruct the user task to put our initial data. And after this, we can see if the bug is fixed. Okay, so, and in this case, luckily, the bug is fixed. You see your form field in the user task. You are playing around. If you check if it behaves like you expect, and you see, damn, oh man, there's a typo. Okay, go back to the stencil editor, publish the app definition, start a new process, and going the cycle around. And I think you agree with me, this kind of development process is very cumbersome, time-consuming, and yeah, developer unfriendly, I would say. Yeah. So, as a consequence, and as a result of working for our customer, for the credit company, we have created a new approach for developing custom stencils, as you would like develop them like every other web application. So, what does this mean? So, the basic idea is of this approach, which I present you now, to outsource the code for the design and the controller into external files. So nothing special, okay? And we want, instead of writing the code in the APS stencil editor, we want to bring APS to use the code inside these external files, okay? This is the step one. And the goal is to support continuous feedback. What does this mean? Support continuous feedback means that whenever we change the code for the design and the controller and these files, we want to see the change directly in our APS running instance without going around the cycle, yeah, without starting process, publishing the app and so on. I want to see directly the feedback, yeah, so inspect my result of the change. Second, I want to reuse existing user tasks. And consider you have already started a new process, you have a user task, and you put a lot of input data into the user task. Yeah, so I want to reuse these existing tasks to see the effect and the result of my change. And very important, I want to be able to still support the APS features, especially the versioning. The versioning of the code. Yeah, so also the code in my external files should be versioned, like I would put the code into the APS stencil editor. So, okay, I will try to not touch my laptop. Okay, so let's go forward. So, to give you an overall picture of the approach which I present you here is, let's first look at the development side of the approach, okay? As already mentioned, the basic idea is to outsource the code for the design and the controller into external files, okay? This is the first step. Around these files, we put or build a simple raw Maven project, yeah, with nothing special at this point. And since we are developing custom form stencils for APS, we need, of course, some kind of dependency for APS, or in other words, we need the overlay of the APS raw file. So at this point, we have a raw project with some loose files and an APS application inside. In order to run this application, we need some kind of application server, like Apache Tomcat, in order to run the entire application. So at this point, we have a raw project and can run our application. So however, what we want is now to get these two files or this code injected into our APS application. So how we can do this is, of course, we need an app definition where we have our custom stencil defined, and inside the form runtime template to define the design of the form field, custom form field, instead of putting here the actual code, we put here a special directive, AngularJS directive, which I have developed, which is capable of rendering the design of a form field which is located in an external file. Okay? So you can see here, this is the only, you have to do this only once at the beginning of when you define your custom form field initially in your application. As the next step, we need to get our controller code injected into our APS application. So for this, we use a feature which comes with APS. It's called resource loader. The resource loader allows you to add external additional files like JavaScript files or CS files to the application loaded. Okay? Based on this, we are now able to render the design which is located in an external file, and also load the controller part which is also located in an external file. And now, in order to support the continuous feedback part, so whenever I change the file for the design, I want to see the result directly in the APS application on the left side. Here's the magic word, auto-publishing. So this is also nothing new. There are a lot of tools there, like Eclipse, but also IntelliJ, which allows you to enable auto-publishing. This only means that whenever I change my file, save a file, these files are auto-published into my running application server, my Alfresco process instance, directly into the raw file. So these files are then available in the running instance. So great, so this is the approach and the general idea, and as a next step, I would like you to give a short live demo. I hope the technical. Okay. So, as you can see here, I'm working with Eclipse. However, this approach is not tailored to any specific technology. So you can also use IntelliJ, also another application server, and so on. As you can see here, we have APS Stencil DevCon Live project. This is a simple raw Novum project. And looking into the POM XML file, I will show you. Yeah, so it's working with Command plus. Yes, it's working. Enough? It's okay? So I want to show you a special part of this POM XML file. So here we are. You see a plugin definition. In order to support this approach, we have developed a Novum plugin which does all the magic in order to support this approach. Okay, and this is the plugin. And this plugin allows you to define, first of all, the name of a stencil, custom stencil template. In this case, it is called Alfresco DevCon stencils. As the next step, you can define custom form fields which should be considered by this plugin. So, field. And in the field, you need to define the custom type of a stencil. And I already prepared a stencil called nodes. This is a stencil which allows you to enter some nodes to your process. A very simple example. So let's save it, and we see already that there's an error. The error says that he's looking for some files in your project which define the design, the controller for this form field. So let's create that. He's expecting in the web app folder of the Novum project under workflow dynamic stencils a new subfolder. Call it nodes field in this case. And inside this folder, we need the actual files for the design and for the controller part. So the plugin is looking for these two files. So I don't want to explain all the stuff here in the code, but only to show you. So we have one file for the design and one file for the controller part of the form field. So now let's go back to the running process instance. Here we see a process instance which is started from my Eclipse project, which shows you the development side of the approach. So, and when we go into the app designer, into stencils, I already prepared here the Alfresco DevCon stencils template. Looking into this template, we see two new items, nodes and signature. And as you can see here in nodes, I already prepared it. We have here the thin layer, so the AngularJS directive, which defines the custom type nodes. So, let's start a new process. Go to the user task. As you can see here, we have our custom stencil, which allows you to add some nodes. But the special thing is when you go back now to the code. So for instance, only to give you an example, let's try to switch the placeholder for the nodes input to something else. So we can go here, some other placeholder, save the file, go back to our running process instance, reload the page like in every other web application, and we see here that the change is directly reflected and can be inspected in the running Alfresco process instance. The same could also be done for the controller parts. So for instance, here we have a function which adds the actual node to the process instance. So consider we want to call this function initially when the form field is loading, so that we add an initial node to the custom stencil. Scope, current node. Okay, save it, go back to our running process instance and see, what we see is nothing. Why? We have some JavaScript bugs. Okay, it says that add node is not a function. Looking into the code is obvious because we call the function before we declare it. So of course we need to place this snippet behind our declaration of the add node function. So going back to our Alfresco process service instance, refreshing, we see that the fix is working and we see directly the result of our change. So, okay. So, and based on this little principle and this technique, you are able to develop custom form stencils as like you would develop any other web application. So, with direct feedback. You check the file, save it, and you see directly in the context of your running web application, APS application, the result of your change. Okay. So, back to the presentation. This was the development side of the approach. So, however, and at the beginning of the talk I said that APS has a great feature which allows you to version your code so that the code is bundled and linked to the running process instances. So using this approach, the versioning does not work anymore. Why? Because you don't have the actual code here inside the APS Stencil editor. Although this approach will also work on production side, yes, but the versioning is not supported. So what we want to have on the production side is not this one, but actually we want to have this here. So we want to go back, we want to have in production the actual code directly in the stencil editor. So, and the approach supports this also. So looking at the production side of the approach, we have the same situation. We have on the right side our Novum project with the files for the design of the controller. And on the left side, instead of having our running APS application for development, we have our running application for the production side. And on the production side, as already mentioned, we want to have an app definition which have the actual code inside the app definition in order to support versioning. And the plugin which I showed you just before provides a goal for this, which is capable of producing an app definition zip which is production ready. Production ready means that the goal takes the actual code of the files and puts the code directly in the app definition. So in the app definition you will find some JSON files which contains the actual code. So running this code produces a zip file which has the code, the actual code inside. So also for this I want to show you a short live demo. So going back to Eclipse, we go into the console and just run the goal APS app zip. This is the name of the goal, which can produce an application zip file. And now looking in our project in the target folder, we see here that a new zip file is produced, and to show you that it is really working, I prepared another running process instance which should reflect now my production environment. So logging into this environment, going into the app designer, into apps, I will import now this app. APS, reference with DevCon stencils, and going into the stencils tab, into nodes, we see now we have an app definition, a stencil definition where the code is directly inside, and also where the controller part is available. So on the developer side, you can develop your stencils when you produce an app definition which contains the actual code, which can then be deployed to your production system. Okay. So a short summary. So I showed you, in my opinion, an efficient approach for developing custom form stencils for APS without losing the benefits of APS, especially the versioning support from APS for custom form stencils. There's an APS Maven plugin available, which we have developed. Just on the next slide, I will show you 2 links where you can download the live demo and also get the source code of the APS Maven plugin. And yeah, I showed you an example configuration and gave you a live demo. And yeah, here's the last slide. I want to say thanks. And here you see the 2 GitHub links. The first one is the actual Maven plugin. Unfortunately, we haven't, so it is not deployed or published in the Maven central repository, so you need to download the code and install it into your local repository. But there are no special dependencies, so it should be very easy. And the second link contains the code for the demo with all this stuff. So yeah, thanks.
So we are recording all the sessions, so we'll have the video recording as well as the slides up online. So you guys can grab a picture, but everything that you see throughout DevCon, we will have those after the event. Thank you. That was great. And so if you guys can vote on your way out, just grab one of the chips and drop it in either the meh or the yay boxes. Thanks.
So questions or?
Sorry, yeah. We're right at time. We have about 3 minutes if anybody does have questions.
2 minutes, okay. So.
Just one question.
Yeah.
This approach, I think it's a great approach. Is being used for another development of another component, another custom extensions, or?
No, it's only prepared for developing custom form stencils in APS.
APS.
So we
is approved by will be integrated into APS.
Yep.
Okay.
I think he means if it will be integrated by Alfresco.
sorry. No. It's so we will see maybe. The current situation is no. It's not approved by Alfresco, and it's not the default standard way of developing custom stencils. This is only a result of our experiences developing custom stencils for the company, which I previously mentioned, the credit company. So, but maybe we'll see. Maybe it is later included in the Alfresco SDK. We will see. I don't know. So, when it's much enough interest to do this, why not? Yeah.
I also like the approach too. For the versioning, in most cases, the stencils, you make the change to the stencil and you version it. For running instances, for already existing instances, does it take into account the stencil that it was built against, or does it take into account the most common stencil, or the latest stencil?
So you need to difference between development and production. So in production, it takes the stage where you deploy your or republish your app with the code which was produced by the app zip goal. So in this case, old instances are still working with the code just which you have deployed before.
Okay.
Correct. So versioning is still supported, but only, of course, on the production side, not on the development side. So, but version is still supported on the production side. So all old running instances are still working.
So So when you do a redeploy for a new version, do you actually still have to go to the stencil and save it so it gets a different version number?
It's a very good question. So when you re-import your app definition, I guess that is you get a new version also with stencils, like for the app definition, all the other stuff. Like you could also make a change on your process definition. Yeah, so you get a new version. Yeah, also with the stencils. Yeah.
My question was also related to versioning because you said it was a benefit to have this still in production.
Yeah, correct.
This is something that I would actually disagree because I see it as a disadvantage to be forced to use this versioning because when I have deployed my stencil then to my system and I find a bug later because not all bugs are found during testing, then I have no way to fix this during the running processes. So I already talked with you before the session. We have a different approach where we basically do this as a development approach and where we have stencil sets defined as a JSON file and we reference files that are part of the WAR overlay which you've done basically. So it's a different approach because we saw it as a disadvantage to have to use versioning still for development stencil or coding based stencil development.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Have you, seeing that the application development framework also uses forms and is growing in popularity, have you looked at applying, looked at that technique of applying custom stencils in the ADF yet, or is that not something you've had a chance to look at?
This approach is not related to the ADF approach. So I just asked the question before lunch to a guy, what was his name? Mario.
Mario.
Oh no, Sergio. Just ask him a question. So if ADF will support or allows to bind or integrate custom stencils which you have developed with the APS editor in your ADF application? And the answer is very simple, no. So this is independent from ADF. So when you're working or developing a custom form stencil using this approach or an APS, you cannot reuse it in ADF. It's not possible.
We'll take that up offline. That's not true, but
Oh, really?
for the time,
So I got this information from an ADF developer.
yeah. So there's a lot of complexity there.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter, though, custom stencil development is supported in APF.
Cool. So
There's subtleties about versioning and such that is not supported.
Okay.
That's the part that isn't.
Okay.
So that's probably something, I just want to mention that to everyone here. That's also something that should continually be looked at, because that is an area of continued investment. So
Sounds interesting. So
let's talk more.
let's together later.
That sounds great.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.